Before Starlink, my world offshore looked very different. I had a little Iridium Go with a 24 kilobaud modem. And when I say modem, I mean painfully slow, like dial-up slow. I'd wait hours for a tiny little weather file to download. Then I'd spend more hours going through that data line by line, trying to catch the wind because we only carried about 50 gallons of diesel. And honestly, I loved it. Those constraints forced you to think carefully. You didn't waste bandwidth. You didn't chase noise. You focused on what mattered. This video is about that mindset and how PredictWind Offshore App is built around it. When you're offshore, reality is different. You're tired, you're busy, bandwidth costs money and time, and every decision has consequences. You don't have the luxury of staring at 20 layers of data, checking 10 different models, or chasing every update that comes in. Offshore decision-making isn't about having more information. It's about having the right information at the right time with a clear head. This is something the old Iridium days taught very well. When data is expensive, you think about what you need before you download it. You choose what matters. And you look for patterns, not perfection. Just because you can download everything doesn't mean you should. More data does not automatically lead to better decisions. Clarity does. The Offshore app is a separate application from the standard PredictWind mobile app. You want it installed on everything you plan to use offshore, your laptop, your tablet, your phone, before you leave the dock. When you open it, it looks familiar, but it behaves very differently. This app is built around one core idea. You only download what you explicitly ask for. That's how it saves time and bandwidth offshore. Before you do anything else, you need to go into Preferences and enter your PredictWind account email and password. If you skip this step, you'll get errors later when you try to download all the data. And trust me, you don't want to be troubleshooting logins offshore. In the Offshore app, the weather map is still called GRIB, which I really love. This is where you draw a box around the area you want weather for. My normal offshore workflow looks like this. Once per day, I download a large, low-resolution GRIB covering the entire ocean basin that I'm sailing in. That gives me the big picture, like pressure systems, lows that are coming through, overall patterns and movements. Then, every 9 to 12 hours, I download a smaller, high-resolution GRIB around my immediate area. That way, I always know what's coming, but I'm not wasting a ton of bandwidth trying to get the entire ocean every time. If I want routing data, I set my green origin point and my red destination point. Then I tap the download arrow and open up the download menu. This screen matters offshore. This is what's different about this app. At the bottom, you see a blue bar showing the total download size. That bar is important. For context, 800 kilobytes is about 90 minutes on Iridium Go and about 45 minutes on Iridium Go Exec. On Starlink, this is trivial. It can take 2 minutes, but I still don't download junk that I don't need. Here's how I think about the options. GRIBs, always. Weather routing or departure planning, usually this is an every 12-hour thing for me, but you can do it more often if you want to wait. GMDSS, this is an always thing. It's very low bandwidth and very high value. It doesn't add a lot to that little blue bar. Ocean data, not every download. It changes slowly and takes a lot of data.
But here's a pro tip. Even if you don't download these specific ocean GRIBs, PredictWind is still using them in your routing. So when you request a route, the cloud-based server automatically calculates your path using the best available ocean currents and tidal data. And you'll see that data reflected in the routing results, whether you download the visual GRIB or not.
Satellite imagery, this is useful for big picture patterns, but not essential every cycle. AIS and tracking, this is small files, very high value. I grab these every time. If I'm on Starlink, I will click download all. If I'm off Starlink, I'm selective and intentional. Once the download finishes, I close the menu and now I can actually work with the data. You can see the GRIBs, you can see the routing, the GMDSS overlays. You can go to AIS and see that data. All the same rules apply offshore. Like I said, I aim for one big picture update per day, then smaller updates to track the change. And again, you really need to play with this before you leave the dock. Nothing is more frustrating than being offshore and thinking, James definitely forgot to mention where AIS lives. One of the biggest mistakes I see is treating offshore planning as something you do once. You don't. You plan, you execute, you reassess, you adapt. I rerun departure planning and routing offshore when timing shifts, when conditions evolve, or when something just feels off. I'm not chasing perfection, I'm checking whether my assumptions still make sense, and that's seamanship. There's one important clarification I want to make before we wrap this up. Iridium still plays a critical role offshore, but it's a different role than it used to. Today, I don't think of Iridium as my primary weather tool anymore because I have Starlink. I think of Iridium as emergency communications. Mine lives fully charged, powered down, in a ditch bag, with a spare battery and a cell phone, because you can't take Starlink into a life raft. When things go wrong offshore, bandwidth doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the ability to talk to somebody anywhere on Earth, and Iridium gives you that. I consider it critical safety gear, in the same category as the life raft, the grab bag, and emergency water. Not because I expect to need it, but because if I do, there is no substitute. So that's the end of the series. If there's one thing, if there's one idea I want you to walk away with, it's this. Good offshore sailing isn't about having the most data. It's about understanding what matters and looking ahead as far as you can, and then making a calm decision under that constraint. PredictWind doesn't replace seamanship, but in my opinion, it absolutely supports it. That's the full picture: how to plan, how to route, how to stay aware, and how to think offshore. Thank you for following along with me through this series, and I'll see you out there.